What's up, world? Coach Kurt here with the LFS-Kali Fight Team doing another episode of two FMA-Nerds talking about stuff. This is episode 37, and I have a really cool guest coming on. He and I have been talking for a minute. As everybody knows, I'm a big fan of hip hop, old b-boy, and grew up on the West Coast. So, when I discovered flip hop, my world shifted, and I really wish we had this when I was growing up, and even when I was rolling with a set. But still. Anyways, I'm going to bring on my guest. He's going to tell a story, and here we are. Talilo, what's up, homie?
Yo, what's good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. What's up, man?
Yeah, man. You said you were in a middle of a recording session, so I appreciate you taking time to step away from playing tracks and hanging out with me and my crowd. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, bro. So, we've been talking for a minute. And I sent you some questions a while ago, but we'll get to those. But in the beginning here, I'm going to be sharing out this to everybody on Facebook. But in the meantime, can you tell us a story of who you are, where you came from, and where you came to be?
Yeah, my name is Talilo Marfil, and I was born in the Philippines, West Bisayan to be exact, on the island of Panay, in the city of Iloilo, but most of my family resides in Bacolod. So that's Negros Occidental. And the real name of our island is Buglas, but Negros was a colonial given name because of our black people that are indigenous black people. So yeah, that's where my roots are from. I migrated to the States at 2 years old. Really had a hard time placing my roots because my mom was an immigrant here, and her story really impacts mine in the sense that she was in a lot of abusive relationships, and we were living in a car. And I think as a youth, trying to find my roots was really difficult because of all the moving, But we finally found some roots, and we migrated to Southern Oregon when I was 12, and from there, I ended up in Portland. I pretty much got kicked out of the house. So
yeah,
ended up in Portland, and I spent most of my life in Portland. Portland's the city where I really came up in and grew up in and became a man in and, evolved in. So Portland's on my back always.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I just came from Seattle a couple weekends ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I go down every year twice in the same month for training. So I went down for G and Bobby Tabuada's camp for Balintawak in the beginning of August. And then I went back down for NSI with Dr. Kelly Warden. And also in between, I was hanging out with my homie Belton Lubas.
Yeah, Belton.
Yeah, so here's the fun thing. He is actually the person who introduced me to your music because there's that sick ass video of his with flowing with his daughter doing the carenza. And it's like when I heard this, it's like, what is this? And like, this is the anthem that I've been waiting for. And I know for a lot of Filipinos, it is the anthem that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, man. Honored to create it.
Yeah, man. So speaking of said anthem, what was the impetus? What was the idea behind it, and how did it come about?
You talk about the Big Flip song?
Yes, sir.
For that song, it really came out of not having representation for the Filipino community in Portland, and then just growing up in, like, mind you, my first place of migration to the States was the Bay Area. So there's a lot of Filipinos there. There's a lot of of our community that spread around California. But like I said, it was hard for me to place roots in that community. So when I was growing up, it was like rural community first, and then Portland, and then getting tapped into the Filipino community after my prison stint was an eye-opening experience for me. And then to see like that we don't have like a Filipino historic town here. We don't have a lot of like community centers like that. We do now, but growing up we didn't have none of that stuff. So yet I was still tapped into the community, and I have friends that grew up there, and we have history of a lot of migration to Portland. So and we've added to the city a lot. So I felt like it was just time to represent. We got restaurants here, we got a community center, we got organizations out here. we got a lot of talented artists out here that are holding it down. So I was like, man, let me represent this right real quick. And it blew up. It became an anthem, not just for Filipinos in Portland, but Filipinos all over the country and all over the world that have been lost in the diaspora and feel like they don't have like a really strong community. And then also for those in California who already have like a strong community, they felt represented too. So it kind of like hit everything, and that wasn't my main intention. It just kind of happened that way.
It worked, and it's fucking amazing is what it is. And
yeah, it's still going. It seems like it's been like 3 years.
Yeah, man. I mean, so what is interesting is, again, taking a derogatory term and then owning it and making it our own, because that happens with every culture. As we know, within the American Black community, there is their phrase and their term that they've taken, and there's so much about that inherent racism that gets flipped on its head when we own it and make it our own. So good on making that anthem, that it's the same thing we all think, because like having grown up in Southern California, because like having grown up in Southern Cali, I mean, that there is that representation there, but there is also that issue of like, who are we? And the answer is what we make of it. So yeah, that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So normally I don't do a set of questions, but we had a set of questions that we were going to go over. So if you're ready for it, want to jump into it?
Yeah, sure. I'm down.
Yeah. So we've already covered a couple of it, but we're gonna dive heavy, because the fact is, what hip hop does is it tells the story of the streets, helps tell the human condition. And this is the problem when people don't understand the roots of hip hop, is that they think of the West Coast party scene, when the fact is hip hop is rooted in truth. So talking about that truth, what I see within your music is this issue about healing generational trauma and healing an inner child. So speaking of that, when it comes to healing generational trauma, because it's a difficult process, how would you mentor a younger version of yourself through the healing process? How would you heal that inner child?
How would I heal the younger version of myself? I would stick around as a father, I think, first and foremost. I grew up without my father being there. So, and also no shade on my mom's, but I would have engaged me and gave me more attention as a youth. But you know, the conditions of colonialism and being an immigrant here can make it hard to pay attention to your kids when you got to focus on surviving, working 3 jobs. So I think the combination of those two things created a rebelliousness in me, and a lot of the trauma that I faced was never dealt with. It was never healed. So what it looked like was me, you know, having outbursts and, you know, getting into addictions, and combine that with not having a community. You see people like me, I'm not the only person being attracted to gangs and dealing drugs, and, you know, glorifying even going to jail. Like I remember going to jail and coming out and be like, shit, that was nothing. What's up? You should have sent me longer. You know what I mean? So now I'm back out on the streets, not really caring about the consequences, and only really caring about like day-to-day survival, and going back to habits that were perpetuating the cycle for me and many of my my friends and homies at the time. So it's kind of like the generational trauma. It starts with the parents, but it also starts with the parents before them too. You know what I mean? So, and then you always can kind of like dial it back into some sort of colonial like impact that made us forget who we were. So I think, to answer your question about healing the younger me, I if I met myself as a youth, I would huddle him up under my wing, and I would give him the resources and show him a better way at making money, at coping with his emotions, and also believing in him. I think that's something that I lacked growing up, is like, people wanted me to be something that I believed I couldn't be. So I became something else. You know what I mean? when I feel like if someone came into my life and was like, look, you're strong at that, you're strong at this, and then set up ways for me to realize those things in myself. Like you ever just meet someone and you're like, man, this motherfucker don't know how to hit that, but I'm gonna set him up in a way where he realizes that that person can actually block in that way. And then once they get the motion down and they block it, they're like, oh, I can do it. I see it. Okay, now you see it. Now you believe in yourself because I believed in that the whole time. You just needed help seeing it for yourself. And that's what I lacked as a youth. And that's what I would help my younger self as is put the time, energy, resources, and belief into my younger self. And I feel like I could have prevented a lot of things that could have happened to me growing up.
Yeah. It is understanding that you are enough. It's not your fault, and you are more than just. Because those are the phrases that keep cycling through me and dealing with my own traumas, as many other people going through the life that we have had, or elements of said life, and trying to find that peace, that season of growth, and that enlightenment, that beautiful enlightenment thereafter. So. And continuing on with that, like, anger is a valid emotional response when facing said trauma. And like, we must grow through that process of anger, fear, and grief. And so with that, what were you most, I mean, we kind of talked about it, but what were you most angry about back then concerning generational trauma? And were you able to, and obviously you were able to process it. So what was some of those steps that got you there?
But cool. The thing that really made me mad is that I didn't know why I was mad. That's the thing. And also the way that I became angry was self-harm. So besides fighting people and taking off and running up on people and socking them on the random, like, that shit's fun but it requires a little bit of anger to do it. You know what I mean? So the real anger that I faced is self-harm, is hurting myself. I've had episodes where I just like, boom, just sock myself up, or I would get in a rage and start breaking things around me. You know what I mean? So these things that's that anger right there was I feel like it was because I didn't understand while I was angry. And once I started understanding what caused the generational trauma and the reason for my father not being there, like, I'm no longer mad at my father. I'm no longer mad at my mom for how she kicked me out the house when I was a youth, or how she threw plates and chinelas at me and all these things, right? Like, why are you gonna do that to a little young kid? You know what I mean? Like, now I have understanding of how they were impacted too. So I have more forgiveness, I have more patience, I have more awareness about what's happened in history. And now my anger is kind of channeled in a more positive way towards music, towards education, towards, anytime I get frustrated. I have an Anak too, he's 2 years old. Anytime I get frustrated, I think about how he views me and how I respond to things that heighten my emotions. You know what I mean? And I never tell him, like, it's not okay to be angry. You know, it's okay to be angry. Diba, like, it's fine to do this. Cause we need to figure out ways to channel it in a way that is more positive and brings about results that benefit yourself and the people we love. And that's something that I've continually had to learn through trial and error, and with guidance of people that have love for me too.
Word. It's that
I couldn't do it alone, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It takes a tribe. It takes a tribe. And again, the tribal learning process is so necessary and so lacking in a lot of ways, especially here in America. And you see a little glimmers of hope of that in these small immigrant groups, or these small little cultural groups. And again, feeling that disconnect, you feel lost. And like you were saying, dealing with that anger, it's the very much taking pain and finding purpose behind it, putting it to work, and with that makes it powerful, and then you find peace thereafter, so you don't perpetuate that same cycle of pain and trauma. Because again, as a father, as you are a father, like, you get it now, like, you understand. And a lot of people just don't get to that point because they haven't gone through that process. So yeah, congratulations on you going through that process, homie.
Thanks. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
We still here though.
Yeah, we're working, we're going through the trials and tribulations, but we keep moving forward because we got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's real.
So with that, yeah. Actually, yeah. So since this is an FMA show, let's talk about FMA, man. So we have a mutual friend, Sachi Villarreal, and
Sachi.
Yeah,
he Longo too, man.
Yeah. So he was telling me about your connection with Lightning Scientific. How did you get connected with that community?
The first time I learned Arnis, Filipino martial arts, my introduction to it was at 18 years old in Bacolod, or actually it was in the city of Bago in Negros Occidentalo. My uncle Samuel, Tito Samuel, he introduced to me the Lapu Lapu Viñas system, which isn't like highly popular, but that was my first introduction to the art form.
Yeah.
And I remember like when I was out there, I was out there to get away from the lifestyle that I was living. And then when I was out there, I still got attracted to gang members in the area and was getting into fights and going through stuff. And I think getting away from the city, because Bacolod is a metropolis type of city, getting away from the neighborhood and the city and going towards Bago, which is more like rice fields, Carabao, like there's not too many people to connect with. He introduced the Arnis stick to me there, and I remember he showed me at the house in Bacolod. I was like trying to hit him, and he did like something that like held me up, and I was like, "Oh shit, bro, that's dope! How do you do that?" And then I was interested because all I know is street fighting. So when he showed me the Arnis, when he brought me out to Bago and gave me an Arnis stick, I remember being out there for hours. My init is so hot, man, but I'm sweating and I'm just practicing what he told me. And that was my first introduction to it. However, when I got back to the States, didn't continue the practice, went through my own journey of addiction, prison, homelessness, just went through all this stuff. And then I got reintroduced to it. I remember being in Portland and seeing like a Filipino arts spot in Gresham, and some white dude was teaching it, and nothing against them. I just wanted to learn from someone that had the bloodline of the culture, you know what I mean? Because I feel like some martial artists appropriate it in some way. Not saying they didn't get put on by a Filipino, but it just felt like I wanted to learn from someone who was actually from the Philippines. Yeah. And then I found out about Carlo Labagna, who had a restaurant, and that I knew about his restaurant. I didn't know he was a world champion, and I reached out to him, and I was his first student. We met at Irving Park around like 4 years ago. They're still there at Irving Park. We're still outside. We don't have a gym. We're there, rain or shine, doesn't matter. Everyone's welcome, and he taught me the fundamentals of Les Gas. We're called Rose City Eskrema, but we branch out from Les Gas. His teacher was Guru Elmer and Ben Lema.
Okay. Yeah.
So the old man, that's really quick.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, because again, this coming out of the city and going back to the country, into just going back to the land and going back to the people.
Yeah. That's where I learned it.
Yeah, going back to the land, going back to the people, and learning that sacred knowledge that helped defend the land and the people. That's beautiful, because it sounds like, talk about your past and your father, there was obviously a lack of a positive male parental figure, but going back to the islands, you had an uncle, you had a Tito that was that positive male role model, and just the same with your instructor, it's another positive male role model.
Yes.
Can you speak upon the impact of that for somebody who's coming out of the life, because you've gone through your own journey with it?
Yeah, I think growing up, I gravitated towards wanting positive male role models. My mom's boyfriends kept changing though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kept having to fight with um, a majority of them. Respect to my little brother and little sister's dad, Lloyd Bertolot. I have love for him because he's like the only person that has been consistently involved in their lives and my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they even had their separation. So I just seen people come and go. And when it came to gang culture, I looked up to male role models. When it came to drug dealers, I looked up to male role models. But I think when it came to like when I was growing up in homeless youth programs, the people that I noticed myself gravitating towards were women.
Yeah.
And women mentors, and even to this day, a lot of my mentors they're kind of mixed. I have male and women figures, but I gravitate more towards a nurturing energy. Um, and I think that's because of the inconsistency of male role models in my life. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not attracted to it and I don't want it. I think I'm just more intimidated by the I'm more guarded, not intimidated, more guarded by male presence as opposed to women presence, you know. So it's good to have Carlo as a role model, Tito Sachi, like folks that are in the LSI or just FMA community that are stand-up men and that are passing on the culture, and not just the culture but the characteristics of what it means to defend, what it means to hold your cultural down. The whole point of us practicing Filipino martial arts, we're not just banging sticks and swords and doing this for no reason just because we like it. It's our heritage that they tried to make us forget, that they tried to suppress. So this is one of the things this is why I'm committed to learning as much as I can and putting it in my music, and educating people on the importance of sustaining it and helping it thrive, is so that my son remembers the history, you know. So and this also leads to me being a male role model today. Like I need to continually evolve so that people can have that reliability from me.
Yeah, that patrilineal tribal learning model is, again, it's a way to keep the power within the tribe, and so the pursuit of peace, peaceful mind, peaceful outcome, and peace, so we don't have to go pick up arms to defend the nation, but we still can. But on top of all that, that patrilineal tribal learning model helps heal so much of the pain from the past. I mean, I'm throwing a lot of P's out there, but still, like, it is powerful as to what that time in the backyard or the time in the park can be with your brothers, your seniors, and your sons, to help eliminate that pain, to help heal that.
Yeah, most definitely.
So when it comes to like identity, because there is this issue about the Filipino culture or Fil-Am and the Filipino diaspora and dealing with the trauma of colonialization, one of the questions that gets brought up all the time is, what is a Filipino?
Filipino. I think today it's Filipino is a title and identity that is how do I say this? It's an identity that is not our own, that we made our own. We made our own. We put a lot of pride into it, but it's really an identity that was given to us and was slowly shaped through like the revolutionary movement, and something that we kind of I don't know. I feel like our ancestors kind of succumbed to the thing that brought us together. The title that was given to us that was derogatory. Actually, Filipino is for a Spaniard born in the Philippines, so it wasn't even ours to begin with. You know what I mean? It kind of evolved into that, and I think that's the beauty and also the ugly of the Filipino name, is that it wasn't ours. We made it our own. But I think the importance is remembering that the Philippines was given to us, that title. We did not give that to ourselves.
So what would you use as a term to define we as a people in this modern state? that could express the overall ideal of a hybrid identity of indigenous, colonized, post-colonial, what would be a word you would use?
I'm not sure yet. I think we
Yeah.
still need to figure that one out as a people.
Yeah.
I like saying Bisayan just to like differentiate our bloodline from the rest. And then there's the argument of Austronesian, which is also a colonial name.
Yeah.
It could be Igalot, because a lot of us come from the north. But I think there's a lot of discussion to be had about what we call ourselves, if not Filipino.
Yeah. Because the question goes is, when we talk about decolonization, for one, there's a lot of anger within that. We've all gone through that phase. Some of us still are, and it's okay to have it, but we got to do something through it to get past the Great Death, so we don't perpetuate the same like enslavement to that anger and fear. But with that issue about decolonization, we wonder, how far back do we go? I mean, do we go pre-American, pre-Spanish, pre-Chinese, pre-Islam? I mean, like, how far back do we go?
I think pre anything that is forced. So if, say for instance, the 10 Datus of Borneo come to Visayas and they spread out, this is something that was not, they didn't colonize the indigenous people. It was a mutual building and integration, Pre-colonial to me is something that's forced, deceptive, and intentionally used to make someone a slave, forget their history, take their resources. So I think pre-Spaniard, based on the knowledge we have, is the most accurate. Anything else is kind of like a integration to me.
Yeah. Because I mean, talking about like the archipelago of the Malay, there is so much there because we're seafaring indigenous people. So there was so much that was just there because of that waterway connection. So, and also like the way that I've described it for, the way that I've described it for a lot of people is the Philippines prior to colonialization is kind of like how the First Nation peoples of the Americas are, where it's a bunch of independent kingdoms that get thrown together.
And we're at war with each other. Bisayans and Tagalogs were at war with each other. Bisayans and Moros were at war with each other. So we're a warring people. We had our own nations. We had tattoos before Borneo came through. You know what I mean? So we are already practicing these things because a lot of the tattoo culture came from the north of North Luzon. So Malay was a whole integration of different tribes that were warring with each other. So people may argue that, oh, thank you for colonization because it brought us all together. I would beg to differ and think that we would have been our own nations if the Spanish didn't come through. And colonization is never good.
Yeah. So with that, going to this issue about pain associated and anger associated for a younger generation with this mindset of decolonization, what would you recommend? This again, going back to that healing that younger self, how would you educate and mentor and guide a younger version of yourself to work their way through that anger of colonization and just like this disconnect with culture and this multiple identity issue that we deal with as an immigrant?
Yeah, I think you say something that is an important piece of this process is that it takes the older generation to help the younger generation decolonize. So without one, the youth is lost, But I think, a salute to all the people, including yourself, that use their platforms, their life to educate people and the younger generation on our true culture and identity. I think that's very, very important and a key factor in why we do what we do. But to answer your question about the youth decolonizing, I think, one way is learning the language. Our language is not a colonial language. It has colonial aspects like the Filipino language, but finding out where you're from in the Philippines and learning that specific language. if
Mm-hmm.
you're Kampapangan, if you're Ilocano, if you're from Ilocanja, if you're from Mindanao,
Mm-hmm.
Cebuano, whatever. There's so many different languages in the Philippines that will bring you closer to your roots.
Mm-hmm.
The words in those languages come from real things. Like even our Baybayin ancient language has meanings on it. Like this one right here, the ba symbol. This is
Mm-hmm.
for our letter ba, or for babae, which is
Mm-hmm.
woman. This
Mm-hmm.
right here is the womb. You know what I mean? So even our lettering system and the symbols represent something that has to do with life, or um, there's hidden truths in them. You know, that's in plain sight. So I
Mm-hmm.
think learning the language, learning, you don't have to go around and get tattoos like me. You can put the tattoos in your clothes. You know, you can
Yeah.
revive your patterns that way. I think that's the first step. Go back to the Philippines is another one,
Mm-hmm.
and find a community. If you're in a rural area, we have the internet now. You know, there's different pages where you can connect with people, and you can do your own, um, trips. You can save up money to head to a festival and build with people. I've seen people do that too. I think our people in the diaspora are very hungry for culture
Mm-hmm.
because it's now popular. Finally, we were growing up, bro, we didn't
Yeah.
see Filipinos everywhere. We didn't see all this shine. We didn't even know we had tattoos, our own patterns. We seen Polynesian tattoos all over the place.
Yeah,
We
bro.
didn't have um our connection to the language as much as we do now. So I think the internet has given us a lot of access to our cultural knowledge, and um, that's what I would say to youth today. Back in the
Yeah.
day, maybe a little different.
Yeah.
It'd be a different. I'd have a different answer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, the access to information and the access of culture bearers who are willing to share that information is powerful because again, this is a
Yeah,
beautiful
it's
time to be
vast.
alive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It makes me emotional to see. Like even at FPAC, I was just in LA with
Yeah.
Bamboo, Ruby, Geo, all these cultural influencers,
Mm-hmm.
Kirby, like Apat na Alon, like all these fools, and to see that most people were having their tattoos, like
Mm-hmm.
Filipino tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was like using their talents to educate people on our pre-colonial history.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
time right now, and
it's
I'm excited to be 50 years old, 60 years old, and see where the next evolution will take place.
yeah,
Like this
that's
is gonna be normal. All these clothing is gonna be all normal, normalized. So I'm excited to see how it evolves.
yeah, bro. That's beautiful because for me and a lot of other Filipinos like me, I'm adopted. And I recently went through the 23andMe process to find out if I have blood. And come to find out, I have thousands of blood. And there's a lot of Filipinos that have been adopted and then immigrated. They're so disconnected from their cultural roots. And on top of all that, this issue about not being accepted within the Fil-Am community because they don't speak and their accents off and all these things. So the way we find reconnection is through the arts and specifically through martial arts. Is like for myself,
Mm-hmm.
it's through the Filipino martial arts that I really found my tribe, my people, that reconnection. Because
Mm-hmm.
the story that I had is like I was born in Arnis, but I was born in a brothel. I didn't realize until 23andMe that actually my biological father is Ilonggo. So, and that
Yeah, you're Ilonggo too. Let's
yeah, bro.
go.
Yeah, bro. So, but the problem I ran into, like trying to reconnect to life and culture and the people, is I've held off on my tattoos because I wanted to make sure that I had the appropriate tattoos particular
Uh,
to my tribe. Because
yeah, 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 yeah.
we run into this problem with this like exuberance and excitement to be Filipino, but we gotta
Mhm,
make sure that we're respectful even to like where it comes from because it's
mhm.
a tricky thing and all this, like I said, and all this excitement to reconnect to our history and reconnect to our culture.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in getting your markings, I have some people that can help you get your correct study it with you to get your correct markings.
Yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate that.
No doubt.
Yeah. So with that,
Hmm.
talking about tattooing and talking about like being loud and being proud and being being brown, honestly, what has been some of the resistance within the older Fil-Am community that you have faced, and how have you found connection with them to like hold space and like share that story as to reasons why you do it, and have they accepted this?
Some have accepted it.
Yeah.
I think some older Filipinos and Filipinas, they're kind of like set in their ways. They're like, on their way to transitioning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not their fault, but usually around them you get a lot of the criticism, and they're rooted in Catholicism or some sort of belief system that's dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm just patient with them because it's not their fault, Yeah. And then you have other elders who are just like, yes, you're doing it, you get it, you know what I mean? And usually a lot of them are rooted in the revolutionary movement, you know what I mean? And I think that navigating through those two different mentalities is always like, it takes some skill to navigate through those and not let it affect you, especially the negative stuff. And I'm a big believer of everyone reviving their tattoos as an act of revolution, as an act of birthright, as an act of and taking the good from the past, like not the bad, because in order to get some of these tattoos, I would have had to take heads. I literally would have had to kill people, you know what I mean? So to keep it going, though, I've used my body as a way for people to remember who we are. Not everybody has to do that. You do it in your own way, but it is your birthright. It is your birthright to revive these tattoos, and if you're called to do so, I do it. The pain of going through this is nothing compared to what our ancestors went through. Right. It's actually an honor to go through this pain.
Yep. That's again, people talk about the bonding of shared suffering, especially through anything they have gone through, like the military, for example, that bond, the unity, that tribal connection, and just the same, that shared suffering of what happened in the past and now honoring it in the future with this little sacrifice of getting some tattooing, but you still get to give immortality to your forefathers, and it's a beautiful thing. And I wish more people would have this spiritual, cultural enlightenment to understand that.
Most definitely.
So talk about Catholicism. Here's a fun one. What is a Filipino without the Catholic Church?
They wouldn't even be Filipino.
Yeah.
We call Filipino because the Philippines was named after the second king, whatever, King Philip II, who never became king. And also Austria was the one that sent the Spaniards. So it's not even the Spaniards. There's like more political things going on that had Spain come there, and also was a competition between their ops. You know what I mean? It's similar to China and America and Russia, and there's a lot more going on that is affecting Palestine and Gaza and the things and going on in the Congo and all this. It's power, it's fear, it's resources, you know what I mean? And that's what was going on back at the time. And then Catholicism was used, something good was used to have a negative impact, used in a bad way. So you cannot expect Filipinos who are decolonizing to just believe in that. A lot of us are trying to return to our roots and our own relationship creator in nature. No shade towards your God, but I think God is nicer than that. I think God is more. He's not gonna use the religion or have his pawns use his name or her name to commit genocide and rape on millions of people. So there wouldn't be any Filipino without the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I agree. And this is where going back to this issue about resistance with the older community, is you have this resistance of, why are you trying to become this when we were that? So this strong belief in Catholic tradition, and then you see the perspective of the rebellious youth saying, rejecting Catholicism and trying to go back to a tribal mentality. And there's that conflict, and often that
sucks too.
We
want to connect with our elders. We want to learn from them, but not at the expense of you telling us that you're going to go to hell if you don't go to church. and you need
Right.
to do this and you need to do that. And it's like, no, I respect an elder that actually is willing to have some dialogue and challenge their own beliefs and question why they believe what they believe.
Yeah.
And then I think an elder that's willing to do that will connect with youth more than they could imagine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So the theme of this has been mentors and elders, and if you're comfortable with it, talk about the life and then your process going through prison, addiction, and recovery. What was the transition during that life that made you to come to this new realization, this new enlightenment? Can you specifically point out one individual person, or was it like a series of events?
It was a series of events for me. I think
Yeah.
that's when it comes to anybody getting out of a lifestyle that they feel trapped in or feel like they're done with, they need to be done with it, you know.
Yeah.
They need to be tired of it. I think some people are addicted to the lifestyle. They're addicted to the drama. But when you step back and you realize that's all, like, that you're comfortable with it because it's normalized, but it's not necessarily healthy for you or sustaining your life expectancy.
Yeah.
It becomes something to consider changing, you know, changing the habits, changing the environment.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it was really hard. The hardest thing for me when I got out of prison was making new friends.
Yeah.
I think if I went back to my old friend group, I would have been dead already,
Yeah.
you know? So making new friends, building, also being open to new perspectives, being open to new lifestyles instead of kicking it with people with the same mentality and the same identity, hanging out with people from different cultures and being open to that, different personality types, was challenging for me at first. And then, I had to be alone for a little bit, but the precursor to that was I wanted to change. Halfway through my sentence in prison, I realized that this isn't the life that I want, you know?
Yeah.
And it comes with consequences to leave a lifestyle because you're being disloyal to your former group. But it's something that I was willing to make the necessary changes.
Yeah.
No matter how uncomfortable they were. And throughout this process, the people that helped me along that path are a big reason to my success, because if I didn't have a community, a good example is when I got out of prison, I went straight to a halfway shelter because all my family was in the Philippines at the time. And even if my family was here, the person that my mom was living with is someone that I've gotten into fist fights with. So I didn't really have a place to go, even if they were here. So when I was at the halfway house, I don't know if anybody been at a halfway house, but when you're there, you're around people that are coming out of incarceration. They don't know how to live. Some of them go back to their old ways. Some of them are high on meth automatically. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was in that type of environment. But before I went to prison, I had mentors even before kind of plant seeds in me as a homeless youth and advocate for me to go through their programs. And when I was going through their programs, they would engage with me. I remember this one dude, he would just meet up with me weekly and play chess with me.
Yeah.
And we would just play chess, and he wouldn't fake the front. He wouldn't like pretend like he knew what I was going through. He just wanted to connect with me and believed in me. And other mentors put cameras in my hand. Other mentors put me in recording studios. Other mentors helped me fill out my first resume. Other mentors.
You are one of my mentors, right?
I'm in the booth with my boy Joe.
Yeah.
He does music with me. Sorry, I didn't let you know. But yeah, he's one of.
I want to love whatever, but that guy right there saved my life.
Word, homie. Word. Yeah.
So thanks for saying that, brother. I love you, man. But yeah. So when it comes to mentorship, there are people that help me along my path and teach me how to be independent and deal with my trauma and give me spaces for creative expression, that realize that I can also save myself. It wasn't just them.
Yeah.
helping me. It was them helping me realize that I got it. I can do this, you know? And
Yeah.
you're talking to someone that thought he was going to go back to prison, someone who struggled with suicide, someone who's lost people to violence and been abandoned. And I thought I wasn't going to make it. But these people kind of helped shape me. And in turn, in doing so, I became inspired to start my own youth organization. I have my own foundation now. I've helped develop programs nationally. I develop programs here. I speak at high schools. I speak in prison. I come up with projects. I win grants. I do all these things that I never thought I could do because I believe in the power of mentorship, because I've seen the impact on my life through that. So, you know, cats like Joe, I met him when I went through this prison program that kind of helps you have more resources like bus passes and things that you wouldn't have when you get out of prison. That's why it's easy to go back to prison. You don't really like have these resources to help you stay out. I was fortunate enough to go through a program, and one of our mutual friends was in the same program, and he needed a ride somewhere, and I brought him to his house, and he ends up being a producer, and we got the same tattoo right here. We got a group called Think Tates. It's an EDM group, hip hop EDM, that hasn't been released yet, but it's gonna be crazy. Like, it's gonna be more popular than Big Flip. That's how big this shit is.
I will spit that to Talilo right now, real quick. Right, Scott brought Talilo over to my house. I think like the day he got out of prison or some shit. Right.
Yeah.
It
was like just fresh out of prison.
He was like culture shock as fuck, and I'm like, who the fuck is this dude with tattoos on his face? Scott. And then Scott wanted hands or some shit. I don't know what we're doing right now. Anyways, he was just like, Scott's like, get the shop hand. He brought Lilo over or whatever. Lilo was like, I did music, and I'm like, I did music. Gonna show those shit to each other, and like, honest to Christ, like later that night or whatever, like it was like we talked like middle school girls for so long or whatever. And this is my dude.
Like, you're sick.
I dude, yeah. I mean, we were holding back so hard. We were like, God dang it! Like, who the fuck are you, dude?
Okay, you're fine.
Okay,
you're fine. It's just a podcast.
Yeah.
You can pass.
Yeah,
dude. I don't. My audience is cool. My audience is far and wide. We don't give a fuck here. It's all good, homie. It's all good.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Is there a bit of delay on your end?
No. I just took it off my headphones so that he could hear your response.
Yeah. No, so it's all good.
In short, mentorship saved my life, and now I've created programs to mentor youth.
Yeah.
In the same way that it's impacted me, and now I'm in a position to hire and train mentors to mentor the next generation, and I've done that. I've hired youth now, so it's a ripple effect, you know. And it's much needed for cats like me, for cats like you who grew up in foster care or being adopted. Like, I'm very familiar with the
Beep Joe out.
I'm very familiar with the DHS system because I've worked in, you know, and it's a much needed program to these programs are much needed to address those issues.
Agreed. Again, talk about adoption. The greatest trauma that an adoptee has to be grateful for is adoption. Because the fact is, for like myself, I was born in a brothel. My adoptive parents found me in a brothel. Yeah, man. So I would have been dead within the year. So I have to be grateful, but I also have to mourn a set of parents and a people that I've never known.
Yeah.
And through like podcasts like this, and way to heal that is like through FMA, through that community, finding that brotherhood and sisterhood by that shared belief of we want to be better than what we were before and what we were denied. So that's beautiful.
We also want to prevent it.
Yeah.
Prevent it from happening again.
Yeah. Your story about coming out of the life is akin to like coming out of the military, because I spent 11 years in the Army, and there's a lot of veterans, especially wartime veterans, that feel like, who are my people after we hang it up? and then we feel like we're failed by the system when we step away, because where's all the infrastructure that we're so used to, especially when you went in at 19, 18.
Prison is similar to that in terms of infrastructure.
Yeah. And then like that cultural belief system of this is who I am, this is who I'm ever going to be, this is all I can be, and that the limiting factor. And yeah, it's like I said, coming out of the life and coming out of the military, it shares a lot of same elements. And like for my experience of coming out of the life is that like I went straight into the military to move beyond that. Like I literally changed my accent just to get away from that. And I mean, parts of it come back, and this is actually a part that I run into is when I slip into my accent around other Filipinos, other Samoans, other Polynesian types, is that brings me back to that mannerism, but it also brings me back to home. And what I find is like when I'm around people who did not grow up with that accent around with me, they get a little concerned. It's like when I go back to Hawaii with my wife and my kids, the accent pops in heavy, and then my wife is like, "What the hell, dude?"
Yeah, you're just switching up all of a sudden. Why are you popping your teeth and peace?
Yeah, it's funny. So with that, talk about code switching.
Code switching.
Let's talk about that. What has been your experience with code switching?
I'm always code switching. I'm always code switching everywhere I go. It just depends where I'm at, man. Who I'm talking to. If I'm in a board meeting, or I'm in a meeting with people that are working in the system, or I notice it's predominantly like a white room, I'll talk more proper. I think when hood cats get around me, I'm gonna pop it a little bit more and talk with some more slang, you feel me? But when it comes to Filipinos, if they got the accent, I'm gonna match the accent. And I think it just, code switching is not only just with your words, but it could be even towards energy, towards emotions. People that don't read the room need to work on that. You know what I mean? I've been there before. I've come in hot to meetings like and then someone just lost somebody, and I'm in here like this, and I'm like, oh wait, I need to tone my energy down real quick because this person's in mourning, and I'm coming in hella hyphy because I took too many shots of mezcal. You know what I mean? So I need code switching is really important. I think it's a important skill to have. FMA is one example of adapting to situations. If you don't got a stick, you got a lighter. If you ain't got a lighter, you got your fit. You adapt to situations to match the occasion. I think the same goes for energies, cultures, and environments.
Yeah, and talk about like code switching and that transitioning between different identities, like the part of that identity we're trying to leave behind, but we still live in present, is like those ghosts of our past, of that young man who's a survivor who got us through all that, but we still gotta like, hey, put down the sword, bro. I got you. We can move forward. So like the things that I wonder for like people like yourself, do you still live with the ghosts of your past, or do you try to find ways to nurture them, love them, live with them? And if so, do you do it, and why, and how do you do it, and what is preventing you if you're not?
Yeah, I think the ghosts of the past, you kind of let them come in when you need to. And the more you can, I'd be like, hey, it's your turn. You got to take over. And usually that's good for situations of self-defense and all that, defending the family. But I think for the most part, I spend a lot of my time nurturing that person nowadays, because that person's hurt. He's negative. He's still innocent too. You know what I mean? Like, so my goal, once I had a child, it was more about making sure that that it didn't bleed onto my son. So I'm more aware of that ghost popping up. A lot of meditation. I think a lot of Filipino martial arts is meditation, not just technique and body and lung capacity when it comes to sparring.
That's the beauty of Carenza. It's active meditation.
It's meditating and eating healthy. Something about eating healthy is something that I'm getting used to. Breathing, getting oxygen in my lungs, cold showers, working out, like doing the things outside of the normal day to day is also helping me become more in tune with the ghost of my past too, and understanding that person more instead of being blindly controlled by that person. Because it's kind of like you get taken over sometimes, and your eyes light up, and you just see all black. Like you don't want him to do that.
Yeah.
Unless you got to defend someone, that's when I tap him on. Hey man, you got to come out, let it out.
Tag in, tag out. Yeah.
Tag. Put me in, coach.
Well, I feel that again, what flip hop does, or just hip hop in general, it helps acknowledge, celebrate, and heal those ghosts of the past. Because you consistently hear, especially like old school East Coast hip hop, and talk about like Wu-Tang, straight up talk about the life in the streets, and then moving forward to find that peace and enlightenment. And again, this is just in the same, but
perfect example, because they talk about frequencies, they talk about a lot of hidden truths within their bars that is all about healing, and they know. What's that? ODB. I'm ODB. ODB. Yeah. I'm ODB. And just I think it's important to remember those frequencies and the reason why we do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This hip hop shit came from community building, organizing, and that the reason why we're in the streets is because of colonialism. Like it's because of lack of resources. It's because of some harm that's been done to us. Yes. Woo, let's go.
That's right. So, and again, talk about that ghost of your past. I feel through your music, you are again honoring, giving opportunity for healing, and also allowing that ghost to like take the light, but also be the light without actually like succumbing to the darkness. And it's a beautiful thing to witness. And again, for like people who don't have the eyes to see that, it's unfortunate, but we can't force them to have that life. But having the understanding thereafter, that's beautiful, and being able to share it so freely is beautiful. So thank you for doing that for the community, man.
Yeah, there's this one scene. I'm heading out to Kansas City October 2nd to do a music video with Tech 9.
Yeah.
I fly back to Portland, and I'm adding this ancestor scene to the music video where a part of my rap, there's a part where I go, "Hoo!" And when I do that, all my ancestors pop up behind me. And they have tattoos on, and towards the end of the scene, the tattoos glow with my tattoos, because in our culture, our tattoos guide us in the afterlife, and they're the only things that we can take with us from Visayan culture. All across the islands, there's beliefs in that, you know what I mean? So I think that an image like that, showing that to the hip hop community, that we are not just Filipino, that's not just our identity. We're connected to, we have a power and a strength connected to our ancestors that is even more intact than we believe, you know? I think showing that visually would be dope to the next generation that's following me and paying attention to the music, that they realize their own strength. They realize who's behind them, what shoulders they're riding on, and it in some way will help them heal too.
Yeah, because like your verse in Make It Through with Rebel Eyes, I mean, you speak directly about that, about getting through that pain, but making it so we can move forward beyond that. And it's again, it's things like that sacred spiritual knowledge of healing is what is so beautiful about hip hop, and by extension flip hop. And a lot of people who don't understand it, because they see the tattoos, they see the loud, they see just the this idea of a thug. It's like, well, at least this person, this thug you list, they've gone through life to help create a present. It helps establish a dialogue of what you can become. Again, that mentorship, that dealing with the elders to help mentor the youth. I mean, but it's that issue about privilege that people don't understand, that their privilege paints this picture of negativity and prejudice, when the fact is, if you take the time to listen to somebody and hear their stories, you can like build that connection and that empathy. And I feel hip hop, your music, is a great way to help build that empathy to, again, the collective Filipino diaspora. Yeah,
it's one vessel. I think we all play a role in this, and some of these motherfuckers need to take a workshop or get hit in the face at one of the FMA classes. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. Oh man. So talking about FMA and your experiences with FMA, what have been some of your issues with FMA? Being because I had a question that came up earlier in the podcast from Justin from Fil-Am, and he was asking what is the difference about the way FMA is taught back in the homeland versus here in the Americas.
It feels more political out here.
Yeah,
that's the best way I could put it. In the homeland, like there's more, it feels more natural and authentic, and I'm sure there's politics that go on in the Philippines too.
Yeah,
but like I said, my introduction was in Bago in the rice fields. You know what I mean? So I just feel like it can get muddy.
Yeah,
it can get a little muddy sometimes.
Yeah.
But can you turn that down a little bit? Thank you.
I mean, it's a dope track.
Yeah. This is a sample of some of the music we've been working on, and that we hope to show the world one day.
Yeah, talking about that. Moving away from FMA for a moment, but like the explosion of flip hop just in the past 2 years that I've just been aware of it. It's crazy and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's sick.
Because like people forget about, because like 90s, growing back up in the 90s, especially Southern California, like that was hip hop, that was the scene. And now you see like the way hip hop is now with all the mumbling and all the dealing with rolling with Molly, and like it loses that rawness, loses that truth. And so what flip hop has been doing is bringing back that raw, especially like our homies with Moro beats. I mean,
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them, man. I got more. Like I'm trying to go back out there too and tour with them and do more songs with them. They are like the modern day Wu-Tang.
Yeah,
they move like that. You know, they move like that. Their personalities are like that.
Yeah,
they train like that, and they're serious, and they live like that. I went to their house, and they eat together, break bread together.
Yeah,
they take care. They book each other out of jail. They they help each other. Like, not saying they go into jail like that, but you know, they help each other succeed and thrive. And that's what a community should be like. Is that we help each other when we're down. Yeah. As long as we're willing to change the behavior.
Yeah. Because you keep going back to the same.
Man, you a liability, dog. You got to get it together. Fix yourself over there, and then you're always welcome back.
Clean your shoes before you come back to the table. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So with that, like, who, again, diving more into music, who would you like to go do sets with? Either Filipino or just American hip hop?
Right now I'm focused on Filipino revival. So I have a lot of like collab people like Easy Mill, Bamboo, GL, Ruby, like all the Beat Rock cats, more collabs with Moral Beats. But eventually I'd like to branch out into something that's not so just Filipino pride centered and make a song that's kind of like, I want people to be like, who made that? And then they find out that I'm Filipino, not I'm coming out like, I'm a big flip, you know what I mean? Not coming out like, just pride out the jump, you know what I mean? Because that's already established, that's already in me and on me. I think at some point I'd like to collab with bigger artists that aren't necessarily focused on Filipino culture.
Right. Because like the thing about the resurgence of Filipino culture is just this excitement. You see all these Filipino community events, these big Fil-Am festivals, which are great for like bringing the community together and sharing it out. But sometimes it feels like it is just only for the Fil-Am, but we don't have the opportunity to extend the hand to everybody else.
Right.
And what would be your suggestion to like be able to do that, to extend that hand to these larger gatherings?
To extend the hand to the larger gatherings to help out the festival?
I'm talking, so like at these Fil-Am festivals, it seems like very Filipino, it is very Filipino centric, but you got a lot of people who want to be introduced to Filipino culture, which these festivals end up being a great opportunity to be introduced to the Fil-Am culture. but there's that resistance sometimes, that hesitation to go join in on these activities because they fear that like cultural appropriation, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think this is in part due to the promotion of the events, you know. That right now time we're just trying to get it together as a community, you know, and that's the main thing, that's the main focus. But I think the promotion of the event shift towards education to the community as opposed to Filipinos come, you know.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a shift in that regard.
Yeah, I find with it's actually within the FMA community that you get to see this cross collaboration that goes beyond culture, because without the West,
I see it more then. I see it more there too. Especially through military exchange. With America's and relationship with the Philippines, there have been a lot of American folk that have come through and traded knowledge, you know, to protect each other's land, you know what I mean, from other powers that be. But you know, I've seen it more there in the community, and it'd be nice to see it across the board in cooking and music and all that. So I hope to, you know, I'm only half Filipino. I'm West Bisayan mainly, but my other half is Irish and Italian and Sicilian. Pero I don't have any roots there. So at some point it'd be nice to like dig into those roots and hopefully not be shamed by my Filipino community and fan base for being like, oh, you're switching sides. It's like, nah, man, I'm just trying to, you know, Ireland got some indigenous history to them too. And I think this is the thing that connects us all, is the indigenous revival, not just pre-colonial Filipino, but indigenous in general. Even white folks can go back to their indigenous roots as well. So I don't know. I think there's some, at the end of the day, like kapwa, right? Kapwa is self-lovers or self-love combined with the love of others, right? So it's an ideology that isn't just for Filipinos, but this is an ideology that can go with humanity as a whole. So I think right now we're in a decolonizing phase, and once we get that together and uplift our community, we can include everybody else. So it's kind of like there's like phases of this, you know.
Yeah, because people worry about this whole issue about like a one world government, a superhuman society of just like benign hegemony where like the individual ethnicities are absorbed and discarded to obscurity. But I mean, to break down the barriers of prejudice and racism, you have to discard the negative. You have to discard the problematic and celebrate the best of, and each generation gets better and bigger. So yeah, being able to acknowledge that and say like, hey, it is okay to be prideful and enjoying your ethnic culture, especially even if it's European, it's African, it's Latino, it's Asian diaspora. I mean, the fact is, if it's yours, be proud of it, because what we don't want is this hegemonic rule that's one, oppressive and eliminates our individuality.
Right.
Yeah. But no, that's awesome to celebrate both sides of your ancestry and your ethnic heritage, because the narrative that gets told often is that because people are colonizers sometime in their past, that they are inherently a racist individual and they are part of an institution of racism. When the fact is, talking about the Irish, I mean, they were enslaved by the British as well. They were assimilated and forced into that, and so it's still the same story. That's what it is.
Yeah. Word, man.
Yeah. I don't know how much time you got. I know you're working in studio. I mean, we could roll on for hours.
I gotta go pick up my anak actually, but I appreciate you for giving me the platform to share my story. Much love for the work you do. Thank you for all the caricatures that you've drawn up, and for holding down. I'm looking forward to training with you one day, and also all the other FMA artists on here. I really want to highlight our Filipino martial arts within the music, on stage performances. You know, I always want to collaborate, and much love. Shout out to Belton for using that music to do your martial arts to the song Big Flip. It connected me and Coach Kurt, Much
Yeah.
love, y'all. I can't wait to build in person.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate you. And yeah, thank you for spending the time, the gift of your time, wisdom, and knowledge with me and this community and the work that you do. Because without it, I mean, I think we'd be less as a community. So yeah, thank you.
That means a lot.
Yeah, man.
Ingat kayo, man. I'll see you later, bro.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, get the gits.
Yeah, later.
How do I stop this shit? Oh, exit full screen. How I get out of here, man?
I'll pop you out. There you go. Well, everybody, yeah, that was one of my shorter episodes, but still, it is probably it's hard to describe because I love doing this podcast and I love having the access to talk to people that I really wouldn't be able to because I live way the fuck up here in Alaska. But point being is, like, it's a beautiful time to be alive because I get to connect with so many beautiful, wonderful people, and I get to help celebrate their stories, and it's special. I mean, for one, it helps me heal, it helps everybody else heal, and it's a great platform. And again, yeah, it's thanks to Belton Guru Turu Crew Och Belton here. Like, that's just how I get introduced to flip hop. So yeah, again, connections, ripple effects, throwing rocks in a pond. It's beautiful. So we need more of that. And I'm grateful for everybody coming and hanging out with me and Talilo and like sharing into this beautiful tapestry that is the story of the Filipino diaspora and moving forward to the next future, or what the future comes. So a couple of other things to talk about since I didn't do this prior is I have some business and some announcements. I've been trying to help put out there that some fundraising for our good friend Maestro Alvin Albano. So I'm going to show you put up the link for a fundraiser for his GoFundMe. Where is it at? Here we are. So you can still donate to his cancer treatment fundraiser. He's a beautiful human as well, and when he's done a tremendous amount of work and good for our community. So there's that. You can also buy a t-shirt, which is an awesome t-shirt. So here's that. Anyways, help share some love, help a good brother in our Filipino community. So yeah. Later, Belton. But yeah, stumbling over words because I'm without words, and it's been a minute since I've done this. But anyways, thanks everybody for being here. No long outro because I'm going to edit this anyways. So yeah, have a wonderful afternoon, and yeah, happy trading. I'm going to hit the button.